Okay, so I'm going to review unlike denominators. This seemed to be the area that we struggled with the most in our lesson on Thursday. So I have just written out a simple fraction problem here. We have 1/2 plus 1/4. So I have 1/2 of my fraction block plus 1/4. Well, we can see that they aren't equal. So what do we have to do to this one to make it equal to this one? So what's going to be our common denominator? Well, it's going to be the fourth, right? So we would need 2 1/4 to make 1/2. So that's why we would change this 1/2 to 2 fourths. Okay? So we would need to add then one more fourth. So now instead of this half, we have 2 fourths plus another 1/4, which gives us 1, 2, 3 fourths. Okay? So that's just kind of a quick review on finding the common denominator. We have to make this fraction equivalent. The denominator has to be the same, so we would have to make an equivalent fraction with the same denominator. The other thing I saw that we were doing is when we have a mixed number, we have let's say 2 3/5. I'm just going to start with same denominators for right now, plus 1 4/5. Okay, so we have the same denominator. We know we're going to be in fifths. Okay, that's how many parts. So I know this is the denominator is 5, but I have 3 plus 4. So that gives me 7. Well, this means I have more. So here is, let's make, raise this up a little bit. Let's make 7/5. Okay, so we have 7/5. All right, hold on a second. Okay, so I have 7/5. Well, we know that 5/5 makes 1 whole. Okay, so now I have 1 whole and I have 2/5 left over. This 1 whole has to go with our whole numbers. Okay, so that is why we would carry that 1 up there or add that extra whole. So just like when we are doing any other math problem, we want to start at the right and work to the left. So what I have left over is 2/5. I have this 1 whole that I put up here, plus I have 2 and a 1. So I have 4 2/5. Some of you were writing it as 3 7/5, and that is not correct. That is not correct. This 7/5 means I have 1 2/5 just for this part of the problem. Okay? This 1 has to come over to the whole numbers. This 2/5 is what we have left here. That's our fraction part. Then we have 4 wholes. All right? So today we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to subtract. So same concept. You're going to have same denominator. And I believe in the first page of your homework, you do have the same denominator. So that one is just, so if you would have 4/3 minus 2/3, my denominator stays the same. So I'm going to have 4 minus 2 is 2. I'm going to keep my denominator of 3. I would have 2/3 for my answer. Okay? Now when we have unlike denominators, let me see if I can find one from your homework today. So let's try 2/3 minus 2/6. And if you want to write these up and down like this, sometimes I find that's easier. Just because I don't know. It's just easier for me, especially if I know I'm going to have to find common denominators. So remember, greatest common factor. So we would write out, what are my factors of 3? Well, I know 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. Then we would do the same for 6. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, times 3 is 18, and times 4 is 24. Well, what do those two have in common? That's the lowest number. We have 6. So we would use 6 for our common denominator. So then I think of this 6. So I have 6, let's see, 2/3. Okay, so I have 2/3 here, but I need that in sixths. So how many sixths do I need? I need 4, right? So what did I do to this 3 to get to that 4? Well, I did 2, multiplied each times 2. You're multiplying by a whole. This is going to stay 2 because that one's the same. So 4 minus 2 is 2. 6 is our denominator. Is this simplified? No. We need to divide this by 2. And we would get 1/3. Okay? Now with whole numbers, we would do the same thing. So first I'll do a problem of whole numbers. So let's do 3 2/3 minus 2 1/3. Okay, our denominators are the same, so we're just going to start at the right. 2 minus 1 is 1. Our denominator is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So our answer is 1 1/3. That's pretty straightforward. Now, when we talk about, we talk about unlike, we can do the same thing with unlike denominators. This can get a little tricky because sometimes we have to borrow what we need. We need to make a trade-off. So let's look at 6 1/6 minus 2 1/3. And all of these problems are in your slideshow for today. So my denominator, again, if we look back up here at common factors, we can use 6. So we're going to leave this 1/6 the same. Well, how many, if I have 1/3, how many sixths do I need to equal 1/3? I need 2. So this changes to 2/6, or multiply that by 2. Now I'm ready to subtract. Well, I have 1 minus 2, which would give us a -1, which we can't have a negative fraction, right? So we can't take one thing or two things from one thing. We just can't do that. So we're in 6. Well, each of this, remember this is 6/6 plus 6/6 plus 6/6, 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this 6 plus 6, because these are each 1, equals this 6. So we need to borrow one of these 6/6 and add it to this, because we don't have enough here to subtract this out of there. So now I have 1 plus 6, which gives me 7/6. This now becomes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 of those left. So now I have 7/6 minus 2/6, which is going to be 5/6. And then 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, so that's how you, I'll do one more of those so you can see another example. So let's do 4 1/3 minus 2 1/2. Okay, so I'm in thirds and halves. What's our greatest common factor? Well, let's go back up here. We don't have 2 up here yet, so we'll do 2. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So again, our greatest common factor is 6. So we got to make each of these equal to 6. Well, 1/3, what do I have to have? If I have 1/3, how many 6 do I need? I need 2. If I have 1/2, well, this one says 50%, but we'll do this one. If we have 1/2, how many 6 do I need? It looks like I need 3. So now I have 2/6 minus 3/6. Can I take 3 things from 2 things. I can't. So we have to think of this as 4 over 4 plus 4 over 4 plus 4 over 4 plus 4 over 4. So each of these are 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 makes 4, right? So I need to trade off some of these 1s so I can add some over here. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to add it to this fraction. Whoops, this is 6. Sorry, those should be 6s, not 4s. My bad. So now I have 6 over 6. So 2 plus 6 is 8 over 6. There's no reason to simplify that because then we're right back where we started. And so now I only have 3 over here. I only have 3 wholes left. So now I have 8/6 minus 3/6, which will give me 5/6. And I have 3 minus 2, which would give me 1. So hopefully that clarifies that. So today you need to complete the slideshow, and then you have an add, subtract fractions quiz in Google Forms that you need to have finished by the end of the day. Have a great day.